What is up, my YouTube family? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, then it's just welcome to my channel and welcome back. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button because you will not be disappointed unless, of course, your taste level is lacking. And if that's the case, fortunately for you, you have a whole bunch of options, okay? Now, right quick before I get started, and I know some people don't like when I talk before the story, but baby, we're a family here and I'm gonna do what I want to do on my channel, okay? First of all, I want to give a thank you and a shout out to Ginger. She sent me this. When I opened this box and saw this little tomato looking back at me, kind of looking like me, it just made my whole day. Ginger, thank you so much. She also wrote a message about her relating to my tomato story and how she's cried over tomatoes too, and sent me one that will never die on me. And I promise, girl, I will not let your niece and nephew get their paws on it at all. I promise, okay? Thank you so much. This genuinely made my day, as did Miss Portia Reddy. This book is so pretty. First of all, I have not started writing in it yet because it's just so pretty. It's a mindfulness and meditation planner. I keep referring to it as a workbook because of the type of questions that it asks, which is a lot of, reflective questions. And I really like it a lot. I really like a good planner and I love a good workbook. And I feel like this is a perfect marriage of the two. It's so cute too. Like, look at her all in his lead. And look at Miss Portia on the back. Yes, ma'am, Miss Arthur, Miss Doctor. All right, without further ado, because we got a lot of ground to uncover. And I feel like every case I'm wanting to know what y'all's thoughts are. But this one in particular, I just really want to know because I feel like I'm still kind of like triple-minded. Not double-minded, I'm like triple-minded on this one, okay? So I really look forward to your feedback down below. Please leave your thoughts. And without further ado, let me get into telling you what happened. Now, Miss Jade Janks here is born on October 14th of 1983 in Texas to her parents Jeanette and Steve, whose relationship falls apart shortly after Jade is born. And from about 3 months old, Jeanette is mostly out of the household, struggling with her addiction and also battling some mental health issues. Now, her father, on the other hand, is very successful and he's a good parent. He does a great job taking care of Jade in the absence of her mother. And when Jade is about 14 years old, her mother comes back into her life. She seems to be in a much better place. And Jeanette also has a husband now, Tom Merriman. Now, having a stepdad is a bit of an adjustment for Jade. It takes a little bit of time, but eventually she and her stepfather build a good relationship, one that very closely mimics the good father-daughter relationship that she has with her biological father, Steve. Tom is very supportive of her and treats her as if she's his very own, referring to her as simply his daughter and not stepdaughter. Now, for the next couple of years, Jade goes back and forth between her parents' households, and when she is 18 years old, she moves in permanently, like full-time, with Tom and her mother, partially to help them out with her younger brother Cash, who is now 4 years old. But sadly, Jade's new family structure is not a stable one. The relationship between her stepfather Tom and her mother Jeanette is a very toxic one, and it is off and on in a big way. Between 2002 and 2008, they divorced and remarried multiple times before dissolving their union for good in 2008. And when I say toxic, baby, the relationship was toxic. A domestic dispute between Tom and Jeanette lands Jeanette in jail, leaving Tom, Cash, and Jade all living together. Now, despite the nature of the relationship between Jeanette and Tom, or how nasty things get between them, Tom's relationship with Jade is unaffected. She never feels any less his child than her brother Cash, and initially she doesn't really have an issue with, being there, helping him take care of her younger brother. But Jade begins to resent how dependent Tom is or becomes on her. So after several years of them cohabitating, 23-year-old Jade decides it's time for her to move out of the house and into her own space. It was time for her to take off the training wheels and have Tom be a bit more independent instead of relying on her as if, she's the woman of the house. Now, Tom also battles with addiction to alcohol, and he has a nasty little knack for prescription strength sleeping pills. Once she's out of the house, she flourishes. Jade is a very well-liked young lady, and she's very ambitious. And once she really applies herself and can focus on her career, she thrives in the interior interior design space. In 2013, 30-year-old Jade is now living out her dream, operating her very own interior design company. And Tom, during his better days, has also gone after a dream of his. He's opened a non-profit butterfly farm with a close friend of his, Pat Flanagan. Over the years, Tom and Jade have remained very close. Their relationship has not changed. And at some point, the opportunity for them to live next door to each other presents itself, and they take the opportunity. So now they're next door neighbors. This gives Jade the opportunity to look after her aging stepfather in a way that doesn't put so much pressure on her. Like, mama can just go home at night right next door, you know? Even with wanting her space and feeling overwhelmed years prior, she is still very much a protective daughter. She is always checking on him, making sure he's eating, making sure he's had his vitamins, supplements, anything that he needs to take to keep himself together. She goes over to clean his house sometimes. She does laundry for him often. And just about every night, the two of them have dinner. Now, in addition to them having dinner and walking their dogs and doing all these things together that they enjoy, they also enjoy partaking in alcohol and drugs together. That's another thing they had in common that they would get together and do. And this dynamic works for them and is pretty much the same until December of 2020. Tom had taken a nasty little fall and had landed himself in the hospital. He went in being treated for broken ribs as a result of the fall, but he had to be transferred to a rehab facility portion of the hospital after he had been in the hospital for some time and had begun withdrawing from alcohol and Xanax. The day comes for Tom to be discharged, and Jade decides to go over to his house and clean up. She wants him to come home to a nice, clean house. But as she is cleaning his home office, his little desk space, she bumps into the mouse and makes a shocking discovery, one that nothing could have prepared her for. Tom's computer screen lights up, and the screensaver is a woman's breast. And Jade recognizes these breasts as her breasts. Now, initially, as I think anyone would be, she is horrified and confused and shocked by this. But she figures if this picture of her boobs are on his desktop, imagine what else is saved to his hard drive. She sits down at his desk. Her gut feeling is confirmed when she finds hundreds of explicit photos of herself at different stages of her life, sorted into different folders with explicit names. Some of the folders were like Jade's Snatch, which is very sick. And many of these pictures were taken before she was even 18. She was 14 when she had met Tom. The youngest she recognized herself in the pictures that she had seen was as young as 16. She also recognizes that a lot of these pictures are photos that she has sent to boyfriends of hers over the years, and she has no idea how Tom could have even gotten his little crummy hands on these pictures. In some of these photos, she recognizes from a digital camera of hers that had mysteriously gone missing a couple years ago. Now, a lot of them were obviously taken as still shots from a hidden camera that had been placed in various spaces all over their house, bathrooms, her bedroom at times, pretty much anywhere where one would expect her to have been unclothed. There were even times where this camera had been meticulously angled and positioned inside of the shower. Jade feels disgusted and horrified and betrayed, all of the things, right? She is genuinely shocked and hurt by Tom being a creep. And mind you, she is due to pick this creep up from the hospital. But instead of calling the authorities or making like a hasty decision or reaction, she goes home to process these feelings, as well as her thoughts and her next course of action. The more she thinks about it, the more angry she becomes. And instead of justice, Mama decides she wants a little bit of revenge. Constantly, she's replaying scenarios in her head of her confronting Tom. She confides in a couple of friends of hers, telling them about the pictures and how she wanted revenge. And one of these friends gives her a name of a guy that could potentially help her out if she had a problem that needed to be resolved. And his name was Alan Roach. Together, the two of them concoct a plan. December 31st, 2020, Jade picks up Tom just as the two of them had discussed once he is discharged charged. And on the way to the house, she supplies Tom, fresh out of a rehab facility, child, with alcohol and sleeping pills. She then sends a text to Alan, quote, just dose the hell out of him. And then again that she's ready for him to come meet her. But Alan is not responding quick enough. So in the meantime, she goes to a store, burning time waiting for Alan to text back and also picking up some supplies. She purchases zip ties, rope, gloves, and a bunch of towels. And after this, when there's still no word from Alan, she sends a follow-up text. Stopping for whiskey, I really don't want to be the one to do this. Now, Tom is in the car, okay? Fresh out of rehab, higher than the cost of living today. He is drifting in and out of consciousness, and Jade is beginning to panic after so much time has passed, and she knows that he'll be coming off this asshole. She sends Alan a follow-up text. He's waking up. I'm on my own, getting desperate. But still, Alan does not show up. He does not respond. He basically ghosts her. And the ironic part of this is the friend that had connected her to Alan referred to him as the fixer. This was like his nickname. If you had a problem, he'll fix it. Baby, not with you ghosting me like this. Like, what are you doing, fixer? Not that I'm rooting for a killer or nothing. I'm just saying. With her window of opportunity narrowing by the second, Jade has a decision to make. And it's either now or never. Today or not at all. While sitting in the car with Tom, realizing that Alan is likely not going to text her back, she grabs one of the plastic bag, puts it over Tom's head, and begins to suffocate him. Now, at some point, she ditches the bag, child, and she puts her bare hands around his neck and begins to squeeze. And she squeezes until he stops moving. Jade's plan is to now put Tom inside of his bed and make it look like he got out of the hospital, child, had him a good old time. He turned up and got stuck, okay? Stuck in the clouds. That was the plan. But once she gets back to the house, she realizes that he is too heavy for her to move on her own. And Alan still is not answering her. In the meantime, and child, desperate times call for desperate measures, Jade reaches out to several friends. She invites a friend over and asks them to help her move Tom inside. She does attempt to try to get him out of the car on her own, but the man falls down to the ground. Okay, and now she is even in a bigger pickle than before. So she calls one of her friends over to the house, 2 friends, and they get there. She tells them that she's picked him up from the hospital. Something is obviously wrong and she needs to get him back to the hospital. So they help her get him back into her car and watch her drive off with this man in the passenger seat slumped over. She does drive back to the hospital and she tells them that she had just picked him up, that something was wrong, but because at this time we're in the height of the pandemic, they don't allow her to just come back with him, allegedly. This is what she said. Because I feel like, honestly, I can't see a hospital, even in COVID times, like rejecting him if there were medical concerns. So that part to me is questionable, but y'all, I'm just telling you what she told us in trial, okay? So at that point, because she had been rejected by the hospital, she returns home with him, back to square one. How am I going to get this man out of my car and into his bed? She calls another friend of hers over to the house, and when he gets there, she is honest. She confides in him, tells him what she had done to Tom and how she now needs to move him into the house, put him in the bed so it can look like an accidental overdose. But this friend does not have the response that she anticipated. He is instead horrified, refuses to help her, and leaves right away. He goes home, he tries to brush it off, but what Jade has told him keeps replaying in his mind, so much so that this man cannot even sleep. He wants to tell the police, but he does not want to be tied to this in any kind of way. So he goes back and forth in his mind whether or not he should reach out to the police to let them know what she had told him. Ultimately, he decides to go to the police. Now, when he calls, he tells them that he's scared to death. He thinks that a friend of his might have killed her stepfather. He also makes it very clear that he in no way helped her if she has. He also tells them that he never saw the body, so he can't say for sure, but he thinks that they should go around there and do a welfare check on Tom Merriman. January 1st of 2021, officers arrive at Tom's house to conduct a welfare check, and they don't initially see anything. By now, Jade has removed Tom's body from the car. Whether she pushed him out on the pavement, I don't know. But she got him out of the car. He is currently laying in the driveway underneath a bunch of trash bags and boxes that she stacked on top of him to conceal him. And the police doing the welfare check initially think this is just trash. They walk clean by him. They talk to neighbors. They're talking to Jade, who at first pretends like she had no idea that there was any concern about his whereabouts or well-being. But after a little bit of digging and a little bit of time, they make the shocking discovery of this man laying underneath this pile of trash in the driveway between Jade and Tom's house. Once they make the discovery, child, they see Jade creep into her car and try to drive away, but they quickly pull that girl over and bring her in for questioning, and she denies knowing anything despite already being named as Tom's killer. They also have an account from the neighbor who said that she had come knocking on their door letting them know, like, hey, I know that stash of trash is very unsightly. I put it there. I definitely am going to clean it up. Child, don't go calling HOA or any of the things. I'm paraphrasing, but she did tell them that she was responsible for the trash and she would clean it up. The following day, they pull her phone records, which clearly implicate her because they're are all of these text messages between her and Mr. Alan Roach, aka the Fixer, that gives them the whole timeline of events with timestamps. They see that on December 23rd, one whole week before Tom's death, the plan to get rid of him had begun. Initially, she was playing coy and a little bit dumb, like she didn't know who had done this to him and why. And here's where things get a little tricky, right? The autopsy comes back, and despite her text messages and what she had told, there was no evidence of strangulation. But it was also noted, to be fair, that it's very possible to strangle someone and not leave signs of strangulation if the person is sedated, which they think is quite possibly a part of her plan, or maybe it's just something that worked in her favor that she didn't plan. Jade is formally arrested and charged with the murder of her stepfather. Mama gets herself a lawyer and she refuses to say anything else. The autopsy concludes that his cause of death was actually not the strangulation, but an overdose of Ambien, the sleeping pill that she supplied him after leaving the hospital with him. Now, it does not help at all that Jade currently has a prescription for Ambien. Jade is sent to jail on a $1 million bond, and her father, Steve, helps her post it. Now, they let Mama out, but with an ankle monitor because the prosecution feared that she would flee the country, having the financial resources to do so and connections down in South Africa. Her father, Steve, is actually a native of South Africa, and he has a lot of connections and family back home. But Mama does not try to flee. She stays put until her trial begins nearly 2 years after her being arrested in December of 2022. The prosecution goes in very confident, feeling that they have an open and shut case. Not only do they have the text message thread, they have the plastic bag jar with her DNA and Tom's DNA on it, and they also have a motive: sheer rage after discovering the pictures of herself on Tom's computer. Now, Jade actually takes the stand in her own defense. She details all of the events from the moment that she had discovered the photos, drugging Tom, ultimately taking him out and laying him out there on the driveway underneath the boxes. But Jade tells the court that she never actually intended to kill Tom, that she only wanted to confront him. She says that she solicited the help of Alan Roach, the Fixer, for protection because he currently works as a security guard, which is true, he did work as a security guard. She said that she felt like he would provide her just enough protection where Tom could not intimidate her or harm her, but the situation has spiraled out of control. Jade also very tearfully explains to the court how hurt she was, what her thoughts were, what her emotions were, because she genuinely looked at Tom as a father. When asked why she would need protection from him, she tells them that she did not know how he would react when confronted and faced with his deep dark secrets and what lengths he might go through or go to protect the secret. And she was also concerned about him being her next door neighbor and having this, secret to hide, this resentment toward her for exposing him. She wanted that security guard to help secure the situation and allow her to get these things off of her chest, allegedly. She also says that she wanted a man there to explain to Tom that what he had done was not a very alpha male thing to do. And as far as the medicine she had provided him, she says that he had called her at 6:45 a.m. the morning that he was being discharged, complaining to her that he had not gotten any sleep, that he was exhausted, and asked her to bring him something that would help him sleep. And that was the only reason she had given him the Ambien and the whiskey to wash it down. Apparently she didn't have water. Now during the trial, the prosecution makes it very clear that Tom is not the one on trial here, and whatever he had done shouldn't be considered, which I don't think is quite fair. They are instead here to discuss the things that Jade had done. Jade is the one on trial, and Jade's defense team focuses heavily on painting the picture that this was all an accident. For the most part, Jade's account of what happened kind of lines up with all of the witnesses in her text message account, but there are parts of the story that don't quite align. Her friend Adam, who had been the one to call the police, he says that she confessed to killing her stepfather, but he had never actually seen the body, right? Jade says that she didn't confess to anything because she had not killed him, nor had she intended to, that he was just super inebriated and she needed help getting him into his bed, and that her friend Adam had become very nervous and upset with her because of how sick Tom looked, and that is why he refused to help. That Tom looked terrible, okay, but he was still alive, just heavily inebriated, and Adam was a little bit frustrated with her, and she claimed that after he left and refused to help her, that it was really late and that she had just gone in for the night to leave him to sleep it off in the car. Hopefully by morning, at some point, he would have waken up in the middle of the night, maybe waltzed into his home, and everything was fine. She said that she made sure that he was positioned comfortably, that she had gotten pillows to prop up his head, she had leaned his seat back and everything, got him a blanket to make sure he was okay. But the next morning when she went out to check on him, the worst had happened, and Tom was dead. When she touched his leg and felt how cold it was, she began to panic. She was afraid. She didn't want to call 911 because she did not want to get blamed. So she had instead struggled to pull him out of the car by herself, still wanting to get him into the house, claiming she didn't know what else to do, but he was too heavy. So she just laid him there on the ground, and she didn't, of course, want anybody to be like walking their dog or the neighbors to be looking out their window and see him just laying in the driveway. So she covered him up with a bunch of trash and boxes and whatever else that was laying around that she could conceal the body with. Jade maintains during cross-examination that she never had intentions to harm him. When they ask if she had strangled him, she says no, that part never happened. She don't know why her friends are saying that she said she did, and that she would not do that to anybody. She says that eventually Alan had contacted her and told her that he would not be able to come help her, but he would send a friend. And this friend, Brian Solomon, actually testifies in court that when he spoke to Jade, she told him, quote, "I want you to bring him inside, strangle him, and I'll take care of the rest." But yeah, it seemed like nobody was down to help Jade because he too refused to come help her. More text messages are read in court that she has sent to Alan, saying things like, "He's waking up. I'm not sure how much longer I can control my temper." Now, she claims when asked in court that that was actually a threat to Alan and not Tom. She said that she was becoming angry with Alan not answering her, but she does admit that she can see how that text would look suspicious and as if she was talking about Tom instead. Not as suspicious though as the text she sent following that states, "I can't carry him alone and I can't keep a kicking body in my truck." There was also a text she sent that says, "I'm about to club him over the head as he's waking up." Child, the prosecution referred to her cell phone as a literal gold mine. Right before she had put the bag over Tom's head, she had also texted Alan, "I guess I'm on my own," before sending her final text to him on the day that she was arrested, "Lose my number. I'm being pulled over." Girl, why would you be texting all this stuff? The jury deliberates for a very short time before delivering their verdict, convicting Jade of first-degree murder, and as you can see here, she was shocked. They did not believe her claims that she had no intention to harm him and that she only wanted to confront him. They did not believe that this had been an accident at all. They felt like she had plenty of opportunities not to go through with it, i.e. all the times that her help flaked out, but she was so determined that she continued on her own accord. Her sentencing is held in March of 2023, where Tom's family attends and gives very emotional victim impact statements statements and expressed their desire for Jade to receive the maximum punishment by law. There was also a local pastor who came to share his memories of Tom and the butterfly farm, and how Tom was always so nice and he would come by when he needed peace, and how much serenity the butterfly farm provided him. And Jade cried as he spoke, but she was not completely alone. Her biological father, Steve, he attended the sentencing as well, focusing completely and solely on Tom's disgusting betrayal of his daughter and calling him, child, not a victim but a sick pervert. Jade also takes the opportunity to speak at the sentencing, and she tells them that she is struggling to pick up the pieces after everything that has transpired, that both the events that had taken place on that day and the discovery on his computer were traumatizing events in her life, and she hopes that over the next couple of years she is able to heal and move forward. She says that she definitely regrets the actions that had taken place on that day and recognizes that she didn't act the way that she was supposed to, and for that she was sorry, and that she thinks about that every day since it happened with regret. At the conclusion of her sentencing, she receives life in prison without the possibility of parole for 25 years. If at her parole hearing after 25 years she is granted parole, she will be 64 years old, which is the exact same age Tom was when she took his life, which is a little creepy. Now, as for Tom's butterfly farm, his business partner Pat stood on the side of Tom, mourning his business partner and longtime friend. Because of that, the business faced a lot of negative backlash. They may not have felt for Jade in court, but the court of public opinion stood behind her and rallied behind her, and they were not going for blatant support of his partner despite the things that he had done and the role he played in this situation. When it comes time for him to renew their lease for the butterfly farm, the landlord makes it very clear what side of things he's on when he tells Pat that if he wants to renew, the rent would triple what it is now. Unable to afford that, the lease is not renewed, and Pat is forced to close the business as of right now. He has made statements that he plans on trying to reopen it somewhere else, but to my knowledge that has not happened. And as for Jeanette, it was really hard for me to find information regarding Jeanette and her relationship with her daughter after this had transpired. I know in 2008 when Tom and Jeanette divorced, Jeanette really didn't have anything to do with Tom. She left him in the past. I don't know if she found those pictures or knew anything about it. I would like to believe that if she had, she would have told her daughter something to make her not continue their relationship. So that leads me to believe that she didn't know anything about it herself. I read that after she left Tom, she continued to struggle with her addictions. So if they have a relationship today, I do not know. But hopefully she and Cash are doing well. And that pretty much brings us to the conclusion of today's video. Let me know your thoughts down below. I almost feel bad asking like you to pick a side, but I really want to know what's your thoughts on Jade and the decision she made and how you feel about everything happened. Honestly, myself, I do have compassion for her. I can't imagine how betrayed she felt. I am a stepchild. I cannot imagine. And although I may have made different decisions, I recognize that we process and handle trauma differently. So I can't really say like, oh, she should, I don't know. The messiness of it all leads me to believe that she was in a state of like she was not in her right mind. She couldn't have been being that messy and it just being that chaotic. So for those reasons, I do feel like she definitely deserved grace, and what he did should have been a big part of her trial. Like he should have been on trial too. I don't care what they say. She wouldn't have did that if he hadn't done this. Please let me know what your thoughts are down below. Like this video, share with a friend or foe, or you know, anybody, girl. As always, I appreciate you so much for spending your valuable time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Peace. In the beginning, let's get into today's, okay. Imagine what else is saved to his art. Ugh. There were even videos. Why am I setting my eyelid? I'm gonna have to just roll with it. Fuck it. What was I saying? Picks up Tom just as the two of them had discussed. Once he, what's the word? Because I was about to say discarded. When they let you out of the hospital, bruh. Discharged. During cross-examination, there was also a local pastor who came to share his memories of Tom and the bullet. Let me pose for a thumbnail because the last couple videos, I don't know why I've been forgetting that part. And then now I'm trying to find spaces in between me talking with my mouth open and looking crazy to find me looking cute enough for a thumbnail. I really like this wig. It's really cute. Like, girl, how long you been in the closet like that? I'm sorry.